Hey guys, it's the Gemmy Fan here on Gemmy Master Animatronics, and welcome everyone to another special restoration video. Now you're probably thinking, what am I restoring today? Well, you probably already know due to the title, but just for reassurance, this piece of junk right here. I'm just kidding. This thing is, this is the original 2005 model. It is not a new model, clearly, as you can see with the rough exterior on this, and minus the, or including the eyeballs and the 8-ball. Obviously, second generation just has the 8-ball. But this is the first generation 2005 Walmart branded Rockin skeleton that sings LaGrange. This is a pretty common item, and I got this off of Donovan almost a year ago. It's been sitting up on my shelf, just completely broken practically. The only thing that works surprisingly is the mouth, but it barely moves. I'm going to have to do some readjusting there. It is very dirty. The battery contacts definitely need cleaning and possibly replacement. They do work, but it's only on certain times. The base needs cleaning. Now I decided to do a restoration on this, and yes, I do have my gloves on for this because this thing is a mess. I decided to do the restoration because the thing's crap as it sits right now. It needs to be fixed badly. And I don't mean just fixed. I mean cleaned. Everything needs to be taken off and cleaned properly, which means everything needs to come out of these mechanisms, the skull, the bandana, the shirt, I mean the leather jacket, etc. So this is going to be quite an extensive restoration, as well as this leaning here. I mean, you may not be able to notice it as it stands, but when you look at it right here, it's like, that's a little risky. And just by looking inside the mechanism, as you can see, the pants are falling down here because it came unglued. But just by looking inside the back frame here, there is a snapped piece that needs to be reattached. I don't think it's snapped. I really just think it came unglued, because the way these are built, they're glued up top here because they have such rapid. Well, the second generations are absolutely, they're a bit of a downgrade from the first generation. Only saying that because the way they're mounted up here to bob up and down side to side, these are a little bit more secure, and they move a little bit slower than the second generations. The second generations are less secure and they fly around everywhere, so you can only think how that may add up over the years. But yeah, like I said, this thing needs a lot of restoration, a lot of work done to it, a lot of cleaning, especially around the hands and the skull area, and I'm pretty much just going to disassemble this thing altogether. So I'm going to quit my talking, start up that music. So as you can see, I believe I found the problem already. The reason it was leaning so bad is because this little disconnect right here that brings the two pieces of the mechanism together is unglued for some odd reason. And I believe there's a set screw that's supposed to go there. I don't know why that's missing. There shouldn't be any reason that is missing, because there's one up here, and this right here is all adhesive. This is what I mean about the older generations. The older generations, I mean the newer generations are just screwed in there, as you can see, but the older generations have a wraparound of adhesive, which I mean you cannot hardly get this apart if it's sealed like this, because you know they're meant to withstand that type of pressure and that type of rapid movement. But as you can see right here, another one of these screws is missing, which, like I said, I don't know why. It usually doesn't happen. And it has made a splitting crease in the middle of this mechanism. So that's definitely one thing we're really going to have to fix. Now, as far as the mechanism itself, it doesn't move. It's probably, like I said, it's probably the motor that's locked up here. And I'm either going to have to try to get that freed or get it replaced, because shorted out motors can also create a bind within the actual mechanism itself. So let's get that fixed.
Move out. Move out. Move out.
After some more disassembling of this thing, I found two problems. One is the bigger one. While disassembling this thing, the piece that actually connects this lever to go up and down is snapped. As you can see, it's right there. And that little spindle gear that it connects to is still intact. But as far as trying to get that piece connected, that takes the biggest stress out of everything in this unit. So either I'm going to have to remake that piece, which is possible because the way it's designed, or I'm going to have to temporarily glue it with adhesive, hot glue, probably not hot glue. But there's that. That's the bigger problem. The smaller problem is I was right. But this is the first time I've ever had this happen. The motor is completely seized up. Usually it's the complete opposite. Usually the motor is fine and it dances, and the mouth motor's frozen up. As you can see, I can't even move it. It's crazy. So by taking this belt off, that is locked up actually. I've never seen that happen. It's crazy. Still connected. So I'm going to piddle with it for about 5 more minutes, try to get it freed up, and show you guys.
Move out, don't mess around. Move out, you bring me down. Move out, how you get about, don't make a sound, just move out.
Okay, so now We're going to get to this problem in this mechanism, and while I'm in here, I'm going to replace the little 8-tooth gear in there because, I mean, being in there for 13 years definitely takes a toll on gears, including plastic components, one of which is already snapped. So we're gonna. This is what the mechanism looks like within the Rockin' skeleton here. That also goes for the Rockin' Polar Bear, Rock and Roll Santa, Tigger, Cookie Monster, Elmo, all those guys. This is the mechanism. And this is the 8-tooth. Oops. Sorry. This is the mechanism. This is, as you can see, it's an 8-tooth gear that moves these other gears, which causes it to bob up and down. And this little knob piece on the opposite side here is the little piece that goes in between a little tiny lever inside of this, so it can also go pivot from side to side. Pretty interesting mechanism overall, but let me show you guys the snapped piece. The snapped piece is right up top here, and judging from the thinness of this plastic, it should be fairly easy to do. I'm just going to have to fabricate it myself, I guess, because there's no way that I'm ever going to be able to just glue that and not have to worry about it in the future. There's no way it's going to come apart. And you know, when I fix these things, I fix them to where I don't have to worry about going back into them, because especially if they're a pain in the butt to go into, it's just not, it's just, it's not worth your time. You might as well fix it all while you're in there, not just be like, oh, I'll just glue it, see what happens in a few years. Because, you know, in a few years I may not even be into this crap, and, you know, if it breaks again, I'm certainly not going to go back in it, because it's not fun. It really is not fun. So let me fabricate a piece, or do the best I can to at least get a copy of this piece right here, and we'll get back to you. Alright, I'm back. I got the little piece out, so I'm going to fabricate it, hopefully the best I can. And in the middle of getting this piece out of here, I absolutely sliced the hell out of my finger. I mean, no, not my finger, my palm. And that freaking hurt. I'm just going to tell you that. Because I used this screwdriver. As you can see how thin that little head is. It's practically about as thin as a knife, and just gouged my hand. So, you know, shit happens, people. Sorry for my language, but that's why I get tired of fixing this junk. Put my glove back on, and I'll show you this. This is the piece that's broken. Get a little closer look at it. There's a little screw piece right here. That screw holder is snapped, that bobs up and down. Sure is a pretty ridiculously thin piece for an entire movement. That's a little retarded of Jimmy to do. I'm just grumpy. I'm pretty grumpy, guys, because that was not definitely the highlight of my night. So yeah, let me get back to you once this thing's fabricated, and I may not finish. I'm probably not going. I'm not going to finish tonight. I'm going to tell you that right now. But next time you see the next clip, that will be probably tomorrow. So yeah, let me get back to you guys tomorrow with an update. So see you guys then. Okay, back with another clip. After a little digging around, I found a similar piece, which is the same sort of it's a tiny bit thicker than the last one, but it can definitely be modified and sanded down to fit this mechanism properly. And it is cool. Well, the holes are a little bit bigger in this one, so maybe I'll have to modify it just a little bit, but I'm hoping that this piece will work so I don't have to completely refabricate one. And I'm going to use this Black & Decker bench grinder to do so, so wish me luck. One cool thing I just did is that it turns out there's a holder at this piece right here that made this little siding split. What I did is I drilled a teeny tiny little hole right there, and then I added an extra screw so it has one screw on each side. So now you don't have to worry about splitting again. Pretty cool little innovation there. Well, it works. But man, is it fast. I can see why it snapped. With that modified piece I put in there works perfectly. All new gears, new secured, no splitting. Looks like we're on our path to success. It's holding up. Moves a heck of a lot faster than mine. That's surprising for a first gen. Alrighty, next part of this video is to get this frame cleaned up, which means the back of this head, the front of this skull, and if you look in the inside of it, it's actually very dirty, especially on the lower jaw area. All that's right there is dirt and grime. So we're going to get all of this cleaned up, and after that we're going to get these clothes cleaned up. I hope I can take them off to wash them. Probably can't do that with the leather, but I'm going to try my best to do that. I'm going to take these hands off too. As you can see, I just noticed they had screws on them, so that's awesome that they did that. So now I can take those hands off, and those are worse than anything on this thing. So I'm going to take that off. I'm going to clean all this plastic and get back to you guys when I do so. And after that, once I clean the base, I'll be ready to disassemble again. Or, I mean, reassemble, my bad. Alrighty, well, we got all of his parts cleaned up. All of his parts are over there. That's just excess glue that's not going to be visible. So you can see the skull's all clean. Body's all fixed here. I got all this stuff wired back up and put in there. Works good. And this works great. Now I just got to put everything back together and go in reverse. And I don't know if I'm going to film this part or not. I'll probably film some of it, just not as much as obviously disassembling it. So, yeah. And there you have it, folks, for the Gemmy 2005 to 2006 animated Rockin' skeleton. Now it's really, really cool to finally get this guy working. He was sitting up there on that shelf, as you can see, right next to the other one that actually does work. For a little over a year. I got it from Donovan for about 15 to 20 bucks about last summer, last March or April. I don't remember exactly when it was. But I got it for like 20 bucks, and this thing, you saw it. It was in terrible shape. It was dirty. I disassembled everything and cleaned it from top to bottom. The base is now completely shiny and clean. His head has been taken apart and cleaned, so is his arms, his leather jacket, his pants, everything. His mechanism has been fixed, and I know it does bob up and down. That's just because the motor on it is very fast, so it tends to bounce around a little bit more. But it's okay. It's perfectly normal for these things, especially ones that move fast. He's in perfectly working condition, cosmetically and internally. I am thinking about selling this guy because even though he's a cool low-pitched version, the one I have is high-pitched. I don't really need two, so I'm thinking of selling this as it's all restored and cleaned up and ready for many, many more years of use. It's got new gears in it. It's got a new belt piece. It's got everything new. It's good for a whole nother 13 years. That's exactly how old this thing is. And let's just hope it survives another 13 in fully working condition. As you can see, everything's all clean, dust free. I completely washed out the face and everything, so it's all nice and clean once again. And we'll play it one more time. I really hope you guys enjoyed this restoration video. I had a lot of fun doing it. Aside from slicing my hand open, that was really the only downfall. But I think it was totally worth it. I think it was a very fun project, for sure. And maybe I can find some. I'd hope to do more similar to this in the future. So we'll play it one last time for you.
Have mercy. Well, yeah, it's fine if you got the time. There's a time to give yourself. disappear. And I hear his thing almost every night.